have someone else who is quickly emerging as she's inching closer to friend of the channel
She's
territory.
getting there. She's
She's
getting there.
getting there. Michelle Obama is talking about her her post White House life. And she is speaking on how she has taken up therapy to help her figure out this next phase in her life, this next transition, and how to be more comfortable uh, learning how to make decisions for herself because she no longer has to consider making decisions in her life based upon her family or her children or her husband or the country. So
Right.
it's
How selfish is that?
so
God.
yeah, so Michelle Obama, she has her own podcast. We talked about a recent episode of her show that she did with Tracy Ellis Ross, the queen of the Cougars, apparently. And
Yeah.
and so now she's talking about how she's in therapy to sort of understand how to best reconcile transitioning to the next phase in her life. So this says Michelle Obama says she's in therapy for transitioning into her next phase in life. Michelle Obama is opening up about returning to therapy as she is transitioning into the next phase of her life. The former First Lady 61 revealed in an appearance on Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast about mental health on April 28th that she is currently in therapy to help navigate her next phase following her public life in the White House with husband Barack Obama 63. At this phase of my life, I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning, Michelle said of her decision to return to counseling. I'm 60 years old. I finished a really hard thing in life with my family intact. I'm an empty nester. My girls are in, they've been launched. And now, for the first time, as I've said before, every choice I'm making is completely mine. I know I now don't have the excuse of, well, my kids need this, or my husband needs that, or the country needs that. So, how do I think about this next phase and let me get some help? She added. Michelle, who has been a longtime advocate of therapy and has done it for years, likened it on the podcast to getting a tune up. And she noted that she felt that this was the perfect time in her life to do so, knowing all the things she already did. Let me unwind some old habits. Let me sort through some old guilt that I've been carrying around. Let me talk about how my relationship with my mother has affected how I think about things. So I'm getting that tune up for this next phase because I believe this is a whole other phase in life for me. And now I have the wisdom to know, let me go get some coaching while I'm doing it so that I have other voices other than the people who know me best. I've got a new person that's getting to know me and seeing me completely new and hearing all these emotions. Michelle previously opened up about her newfound independence on an episode of Sophia Bush's iHeartRadio podcast, Work in Progress, saying that she can now do whatever I want. It's the first time in my life all my choices are for me. I think if I'm honest with myself, I could have made a lot of these decisions years ago, but I didn't give myself that freedom. She also touched upon how this newfound freedom combined with constant public scrutiny led to gossip and speculation about the state of her marriage with the former president. That's the thing that we as women struggle with, disappointing people. I mean, so much so that this year, people couldn't even fathom that I was making a choice for myself, that they had to assume that my husband and I are divorcing. This couldn't be a grown woman just making a set of decisions herself, right? But that's what society does to us. We start actually going, what am I? What am I doing? What am I doing this for? And if it doesn't fit into the sort of stereotype of what people think we should do, then it gets labeled as something negative and horrible. So there you have it. The former first lady is in therapy to get a better handle on her emotions and how to better cope with being comfortable making decisions for herself and not for anyone else. So, are you buying any of this?
No, I'm not. I'm not. And listen, it sounds great on the surface. So let me go ahead and give my disclaimer here. Now, so I have no problem. Yeah, I have no problem with somebody getting therapy, trying to transition to any phase in their life, mentally transitioning, that is. And so, you know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with that. Okay, but I'm gonna just tell you how I feel about
Yeah,
this.
hey man, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so to me, I took the word therapy as I'm in training. Um, and the transition for the next phase in her life is all of this stuff. I think what she is going to now start doing, I think she's trying to carve out this Oprah lane for herself. And I think that this air quote therapy that she's talking about is her training for this new role she's about to start playing. And, using all of these. Listen now, she was in the White House now. She was with Obama now. And they got the best speaking people out there. So she could dress this up real nice to make it sound like how it just sounded. I mean, that sounded so spectacular. What woman doesn't want to, hey, let me find something to do with my life since all the kids are gone? You know, my life was my kids, but my kids want to live their own life now. What's left for me? Look, I get that. All right. So, and I'm not telling y'all to stay in the house and keep cooking. Some of y'all, no, I'm not just playing. I'm not telling y'all to do that. All right. So, if you want to explore a new chapter in your life, fine. But I think what she's doing here is she's using code words. And I really feel as though, because she's got the cachet enough to go Oprah. And so I think what she's going to do is she's going to go ahead and do that. Now, she has this guy on her podcast. She'll, I think that's her brother, or it's something like that. Where he's a little on the spectrum. Okay, and she was with the blue people, so I'm pretty sure a lot or whatever she's going to be getting herself into is going to be along those lines, and she's got a lot of pull. So I wouldn't be surprised if she would have people on her show who are transitioning physically and pushing that line. So the thing that I have with this, I wasn't prepared for her to get into the content creation space. Why? But now that she is, and she has a lot of pull, wouldn't be surprised if she is saying some ASAP Rocky kinds of things or having ASAP Rocky kind of conversations for dangerous rhetoric to continue. So all in all, on the surface, who's against people trying to get therapy? Not me. All right. But I think what she's doing here is cloaking her stuff or what she's doing for, to make it sound good. But I think what she's really getting at is she's training to be the next Oprah, if you will. But what are your thoughts, man, on Michelle Obama out here saying that, hey, man, mental health is important. So, hey, I'm out here getting therapy to transition to the next phase. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I was gonna give a disclaimer myself, but you beat me to it. So
Okay,
I'm
okay,
going to go ahead and just say Dogon SS also speaks for me
okay.
when it comes to his disclaimer about mental health and
Yes.
therapy. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think that anything that you said was necessarily out of bounds. This to me, I think that this coincides with her personal brand, her podcast. I think it's all a part of the operation of creating
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Obama, or rather positioning Michelle Obama as a media mogul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that that's a far fetched notion. As far as I'm concerned, it's obvious to me that she is trying to that is her next transition. Like the decisions that she is now making independent of her family or uh, any sort of professional duty or obligation
Mm-hmm.
has to do with her next career move, which I would say is being like a media talking head. So I don't really think that that's totally out of bounds. Like that's kind of the way this stuff works. Interviews like this and her own podcast, they typically serve as focus groups.
Mm-hmm.
She probably has a team around her publicists, marketing people, communications people, whose jobs it is to put her in these particular contexts, and
Mm-hmm.
then to gauge public reaction to it to
Yes.
determine what is the next step. Based upon consumer feedback, what are people saying about you? It's almost like a Q rating in sports.
Mm-hmm.
What are people saying about you? How do people feel about you being the host of any sort of thing? And then they take that data and that information, and then they plan their next steps based upon that feedback and that information. So I don't really think that what you're saying is totally far fetched or anything necessarily conspiratorial. I think it is completely conceivable that that's what she has going on. It also clarifies to me why she's been unmuting so much about her personal life,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what individuals in her position do.
Mm-hmm.
um these people who host these talk shows, Oprah's, and anybody else who's in a position like that, you have to be comfortable being individually transparent. And so all of this talk about the state of their marriage, remember when we did a video not too long ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they were talking about, it was, and this one was Barack, and Barack is probably a part of this.
Yes.
He's a part of her operation, so he's probably supporting it and doing whatever he can to help make it happen. But Barack is doing these interviews talking about how he owes Michelle Obama because of all of the years of him being president, and so he says,
Campaigning for her.
yeah, right. So he said that he's in a deep deficit, is what he
Yes.
said.
Yes.
So all of this stuff, and then doing Michelle doing her podcast with Tracy Ellis Ross, asking her why she likes younger men, and commenting about how younger men are gorgeous, and just sort of getting into how she sees things from her vantage point, and being more willing to divulge details about her personal life. These are all talking points that an individual in media has to be comfortable engaging in. And so these are little baby steps towards the ultimate end goal of her being someone who is viewed as an authority figure in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So this to me it makes sense. It's expected. If it were me, not if it were me, but for my taste, she comes from a degree in law, right? Didn't she get a law background? She went to Harvard or something like that. Isn't that where they met? They
Yeah.
were like in
Something like that.
Harvard Law School or something. So like if she's a lawyer or an attorney, and this is just JV Wins giving his personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. This is just my personal opinion. I think it would be pretty dope if she, went back into practicing law or doing something cool like that. But these days it's all about the metrics and the clicks and the algorithm. And she already has a huge name. So why not capitalize on that to the best of her ability? So yeah, I think this is all a part of a very carefully laid out plan to position her as like a media personality.
Yeah, and 1,000. And last thing I'll say is, now, given who she is, the resources that she has, the people that she has, one can just say, hey, man, she just got the cash. She knows the people to get the top equipment, the top this and that, to have this, the top branding, to have this type of podcast. But I'm telling you right now, it's industry planish. And this is Michelle Obama. And what I'm getting at with the industry plan is that she's being served to us. And, this is on People Magazine. This is people.com that we read this article from. And it was everywhere. This one little thing that she's saying about mental health and transitioning over, this was everywhere. So this wasn't viral as far as on TikTok. People ain't talking about this on TikTok. But this went viral in all the big chains of media. And so she's getting pushed to be this new speaking head for Black women in America.
Specifically, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so she's going to be talking these various talking points that Black women in America think like. And if you're not like that, she's going to dare you and challenge you to think like that, because you know what I'm saying? And so this is what I don't care for with this. So it's one thing to say, hey, you know, whatever, but we'll see how far this goes. But me personally, I think the sky is the limit with this.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to replace Shay Shay in views. And Shay Shay,
well, now, yeah, that may be
that boy done, bro. That's a wrap for him. How did that happen? What Cat Williams said in 2 weekends, 3 weekends, something like that. Something like that. That thing happening ASAP. So there needs to be a voice for Black women. And so here she comes to save the day. So hopefully, you know, my people out there, you know, and getting Keke Palmer, getting Tracy Ellis Ross,
mm-hmm.
getting what's that girl that was in Hustle and Flow and Empower? That girl, you know, she was in talking about some Hollywood don't pay them enough. Girls in Baby Boy. What's her name?
Oh, Taraji
P. Henson. She got all these.
Yeah.
And she just interviewing them. And it's just, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. Okay. So, hey, y'all, just brace yourselves. All right. You know what I'm saying? Just brace yourselves out there. And don't say I ain't warn you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, that's going to be the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast. I'm telling you right now.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah, I think it's entirely on the board that once she has ascended to wherever it is that she's going to ascend to, that she will be peddling certain forms of speech that are becoming more normalized and popularized. Single motherhood, lack of marriages, lack of nuclear families and households. Being a baby mama is in fact not something that women should avoid doing. All of these neoliberal talking points, even though she is the complete antithesis of that, given her own personal history, it won't matter, because what pays is what is the thing to say, what is the current cultural zeitgeist, which is everything that I just referenced. And I completely see a world in which, if she ascends to being this media personality, she will definitely be perpetuating a lot of these various narratives. I think that is entirely on the board, because sadly, those are the narratives and talking points of her community. Take that for what you will, folks. It is, make up your own mind as to how you feel about that. We are just two dopes on this podcast giving our own opinion. So, but yeah, I feel you, bro. I agree. I think that all of that is entirely on the board.
Yeah,
so,
man. Wild stuff. Yeah. Stay on the lookout, guys. Stay vigilant out there, man.
Yeah.